Hey, Slimies.
Hey, Slimes.
Hey, all you little slimies out there. I'm Jordan Lema from Lema Studios, and I'm excited to be here with the cast and director of Ombis2. Adam,
Yeah.
Ombis2.
Thanks for having
Years
us.
in the making. How are you feeling about this whole thing? And who's here today? Tell us about your cast.
Well, with me are the leads of Ombis2, Paige Cummings, who plays Haley Greenheart, and Jason John Beebe, who plays Mark.
And for all the slimies out there who have seen Ombis 1,
Yeah.
free to watch on YouTube, over 1 million views.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
It's true.
Yeah.
You have a number of films that have over 1 million views. You have 500,000 followers on YouTube. This is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been doing a lot of marketing, and I'm trying to build a presence so that when we release Ombis2, there's a huge, a huge audience that can see it.
So for everyone who has seen Ombis. Why do I keep... Tell the audience out there, why is it
Okay.
Ombis?
Ombis is called Ombis because it's a slang for the word zombie. You take the Z and the E out of the word zombie, and you get Ombis. So when I was a kid, I was always taught to write what you know, and I knew zombie genre stories because I was just infatuated with them. So I wanted to create my own take on that, and that's where the word came from.
It's just that simple. And for those who have seen Ombis 1, these are reoccurring characters.
Yes.
well, yeah.
And you were playing an older version of yourself?
In the first one, I think Mark is one of the big unanswered questions of what happened to him. He's kind of taken up to space imprisonment, and no one knows what happened to him. So obviously it's at some point in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long in the future does this take place?
14 years.
Wow. All right.
It actually does take place 14 years from when the original events of the first film happened.
And Paige, you play Haley, who was quite young in that film, but now grown up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been an interesting journey because obviously 14 years is a big chunk of time where the characters have gone through a lot, specifically my character, in between the two films' events. So it's just been interesting to kind of develop and work that as an actor.
Did you watch the first one and study the character so that you could play the older version?
I don't want to say I studied it, but I did watch it.
Okay.
I didn't want to do anything that was too I didn't want to be messed up, if that makes sense. I didn't want to copy exactly because I don't
Okay.
play young.
This child's
Haley.
performance,
This
yeah.
child. I don't want to act like this child. But I did watch, and I did my favorite scene that young actor did was in the car. And then there's almost a parallel scene in Ombis 2 of me in a car. So
All right.
that was really special to get to film. Yeah.
Ombis has a lot of character development in the first half an hour or so.
Yeah.
This is before the slime flies.
Yes.
There is a lot of character building in this conversation you're talking about in the car. Pretty funny exchange with your character,
Yeah.
Haley, and the police officer.
I think the first time Adam approached me about this role, I didn't actually know what the role was. It was very secret, kept secret. I was like, is this a Marvel movie? What's happening? But it had a different character name. Everything was changed in the original script I got, so I didn't really know what I was getting
Was that
into.
to keep it secret?
It was to keep it secret, but also to find somebody with a talent that could take what was originally put on paper and make it better.
Okay.
Make it older, obviously. Give her another, yeah.
Right, because my first audition scene was that scene in the car
All
from the
right.
first movie.
Oh, you
but-
figured that out.
Yeah, I figured that out.
Okay. All right.
Was that first scene in the car, but written for an older character.
Okay.
So I didn't know that at the time. I found that out probably after we shot Ombis 2, and I was like, this sounds so familiar. Oh, I
Really?
did this audition. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was a huge point that we had to do with Paige. Paige is the first person I reached out to say, hey, I want to do this film. And I only had Paige in mind since we started working on it. Obviously, I knew Jason. Jason and I had been wanting to do a sequel for many years. There's so many different script versions out there. But yeah, her journey, Paige's that is, It started a lot longer than most people on this
Oh
project.
yeah.
Because she was actually the one that, I mean, those auditions, that helped the film find its producers, and then it just started to come to life.
Let's talk about your journey to get to this film. How did Ombis2 become out of Ombis1, and is there a future?
Well, Ombis2 came from years of discussion, mainly with Jason at the time. We did, I mean, there had been like 13 scripts at one point for this film. And Ombis1 has always been a special film for me. And, to touch that film again and, make it look like shit, you're making a sequel and then now it's just kind of like a money grab and the effects don't look good, the story's shit. That was always the biggest fear that I had. And so for many years I did studying on computer graphic imagery and started playing with Photoshop and said one day to Paige, that is, I think we could do this. And that is what started us down a rabbit hole that, Paige auditioned like 4 times.
Yeah.
Okay, finally got the part.
Paige was the most auditioned role in this entire film.
Okay.
For the same character every time, or different?
For the same character every time.
So
and I think you read the same verbiage in every.
Yeah, I think I did 4 takes of the same script. It was always the same script.
Yeah.
So was this like start and stop kind of thing? Like you were going to do it and then put on hold?
Yeah,
and
well,
re-audition?
we need to find funding, and I would message Paige, and I'd be like, "Hey, Paige, can you do another audition for me?" It's not that I didn't have them, because I do have them. You may see them in the special
He just
features.
lost them, and he was like, "I'm gonna need to film this."
No,
again."
no. But those auditions like really sold it. I met Paige on Horrific Evil Monsters.
Okay.
And I didn't really get a good chance. I mean, we worked together, but we didn't really like communicate.
I mean, I had 2 lines. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a great set experience. I mean, it was actually one of my first times being on a larger set like that. It was about 3 a.m. in Niagara, in Niagara Falls.
Niagara
area.
Falls, yeah.
So at a very old, scary house. So.
All right.
And I would think I was like 18. So.
Yeah, and you brought your mom, I
I
think?
had to bring my mom because my mom was like, well, "Where are we going?"
Yeah, what did you do?
Yeah, you're
But yeah, and years later, here we are. Yeah.
So the scale of Ombis1, it's a big movie. There's a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of extras. There's a lot of slime scenes. There's a lot of effects.
Yeah.
How does that follow up with Ombis2?
The effects are top notch. Like, I like to compare it to an artistic style film. It's very Marvel-esque. And that is what I wanted going into the film. Like most, if not all, the scenes in the movie have been shot in blue screen surroundings.
13, 14 years ago, I had really short hair to go with that, like, former varsity quarterback character. And when he presented me with Ombis2, I had spent like a year and a half growing my hair out. And I had gotten really literally attached to it.
Yeah.
And Adam was like, "Well, will you cut your hair?" And I said, "Well, Adam, this is in the future. Who's to say that Mark would even look the same? I'm sure his hair grows in space."
14 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had a little compromise where I didn't get it cut short, but I had a little trim.
You got a little trim. You got the split ends taken care of, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And how was it after years and years to finally be cast again as Mark?
It was kind of surreal. Like, I expected it because Adam and I had talked. Like, he sent me a script years ago where Ombis2 and it took place in Antarctica.
Okay.
So there was always talks of an Ombis2. So I wasn't like, I was surprised but not surprised. I was surprised that it was actually, okay, this is really happening. But I always thought that it would happen at some point.
All right.
So, but I mean, it was cool just because I 12, 13 years later, I got to play a character again, which doesn't happen too long. That's a long time for a sequel.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're one of the heroes in Ombis1. I don't know about Ombis2 because I haven't seen it yet. But to come back and play the role of Mark again with the cliffhanger You know, no one knew what happened to you in the first movie. So is it cool to answer those questions and be a part of Mark's story again?
Yeah, because I like I said, I think Mark is probably the biggest unanswered question of the first one.
Sure.
You know, at the end of the movie, and it's been out for a while now, so I don't think I'm giving a spoiler out, but he's taken away from a UFO.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you just spoil it.
Yeah. Or for the
hell?
younger generation, a UAP.
Oh,
And no one knows what happens to him. The movie basically ends shortly after that. All we know is Mark doesn't die, and for some reason, aliens wanted him.
Well, I mean, if you asked me, just from watching the film, I'd say it's like a Predator kind of thing where you're like the worthy adversary, and he's like, I'm taking this one because he's the one who could fight me. That's how I felt about it.
As a huge Arnold Schwarzenegger and Predator fan, I love that.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we'll see.
on
to be
set
determined.
of Ombis2, I would always go to Jason and be like, because he did a lot of physical,
Yeah,
physical
no,
work in
there's
the
some
first one.
bad fights in there.
And I always would go to him and I'd be like, Jason, I need your Arnold. I need your Arnold.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember on Ombis2 where you're on the city street and I'm like, I need you to rip that fucking jacket off.
Yeah. You remember when I rolled down that mile hill?
Yes, which wasn't really a mile, but it
It was
was.
damn close.
It was. Yeah, he's like, Adam, there's a hill over there. Should we get footage of me rolling down it? I'm like, sure. Are you willing? He's like, yeah. So he ended up rolling down the film, or rolling down the film. He rolling down the hill, and if you look at it in the film, it's actually out of focus.
Okay.
But it happened so fast.
It happened, and he only did it once. He said he's only going to do it once.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
One and done.
yeah.
Yep.
Who is in the Nemesis costume?
In this film,
Well, I guess in both.
well, the first one had actor Rich Winatowski,
Okay.
and in this film,
7 feet tall?
yeah, he's legitimately 7 feet. And then in this one, we have Sean Sanders.
Excellent.
And, he's really become an actor where he can play characters like, you can give him any type of character. I like to call him like a creature feature, character.
The Nemesis fight with you and Richard Sauterwhite,
Mm-hmm.
that's a pretty amazing fight. That's highly choreographed. That's some good stuff.
So if I could say something about that real quick, as cool as the fight scene is in the second one, it was less physically taxing than the first one, which is good because
Yeah.
I'm 13 years older now.
Yeah.
But the first one was, I actually put a dent in one of those cars that he throws me
Wow.
against, an actual dent.
Okay.
I think it was my knee.
Oof.
And it was a hell of a fight scene. And then fast forward to Ombis2 with Sean, we went to the same dojo, Tim Hartman's studio dojo, and rehearsed it. And that was physically taxing too, but it was all inside of a building. It wasn't falling on pavement. It was falling on pads and everything. And I'm really looking forward to see how that turns out once you got it all edited.
So this is a big film. There's a lot of effects. Ombis1 had tons of people, tons of effect shots. So what's your projected timeline to make something like this happen with tons of effect shots?
Well, we wrote the first draft of the film starting in 2021, and this version of the film. There's been many other versions written, of course. So from there, I actually started editing in February of 2023.
Okay.
So I've already been editing on this film for over a year, and it's getting close to being finished. And we shot it that method too. Like the goal for this film was to have that digital comic book feel-ish.
Do you find that as you get further down the road, and you said you've been working on over a year, do you revisit some of the older ones and be like,
yeah.
I could do that better now?
Oh, yeah. I distinctly can tell you there's some scenes that I scrapped completely once we did the scenes together with the talent and just redid things. There's a scene with Paige. I'm visioning it right now. That wasn't in the original script, I don't think. But Paige is holding this machine gun, like similar to the one back there, and she's carrying somebody out of the burning, the facility that's on fire. And like that scene, like specifically talking that scene, it's a hard digital effect to do. You got to really learn your keying very well.
Yeah.
And I've been doing quite a bit of research and learning, It's all about the hair, though. If you can't get the hair down,
Yeah, the
you're
hair,
in
yes,
trouble.
blonde hair too. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
brownish, dirty blonde,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
didn't
tricky.
have problems with Paige's hair, but I had horrific times with Jason's hair.
Really?
Of course.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I haven't finished
mean,
working on
course.
Jason's
Hair's
hair yet.
always causing us problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild hair.
Yeah.
Well, just I noticed at the end of Ombis 1 some talk about conspiracy theories and whatnot. What do you think? Does that carry over into Ombis 2? Are there some conspiracy theories going on in here?
Oh yeah, yeah. The trailer, the whole vibe of the film, it's all centered around a conspiracy theory.
All right.
And Paige's character, Haley Greenhart, she is the only one really left from the first film wanting to speak up.
Is that last name Greenheart a slime reference?
Oh God, I didn't
is
even.
now.
It is
All
now.
right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, now it is. It was like from day one. I mean, for this film, there hasn't been anybody else other than Paige that I saw for this role. And if she, and I think I've said this to you before, if she would have said, "Nah, I don't want to do that," the film probably would not have gotten made today. And I'll honest to God.
Wow, that's a heck of a compliment.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I've said that to you before.
Yeah.
But that was a really, I don't know. I just could not find, like, this story is so focused around the Haley Greenhart character and her relationship with her sister.
In Ombis 1, we see her in pretty horrific, abusive environment, and I think that has informed a lot of the character. And then growing up, and then Haley is essentially gaslit for the entirety of the middle chunk that we're missing between 1 and 2, and told, like, you don't know what you're talking about, like, you're lying, you're making this up, you're crazy. And that was just a really interesting thing to play with. And I think, like, for me, there's all the alien stuff going on, and then there's also, like, Haley's mental stuff you've got going on, because, like, I think there's so much going on with this character in terms of how she grew up in an abusive environment, and then as well as dealing with the post-traumatic stress of an alien invasion in her hometown at 12 years old.
Yeah.
And then being told to never talk about it again. So, yeah, it's just been a really interesting thing to develop.
So Ombis 1 does hit on some pretty hard-hitting issues. There's a overlying issue of the
Of
domestic
abuse.
abuse
Yeah.
and stuff like that. What was your thought on channeling that into this film? I mean, it's a eye-opening part of this story.
Well, the sequel is a product of the times. And what I mean by that is we live in an age where conspiracies and things kind of run amok with that right now. Paige's character goes through a lot of what I think a lot of people are experiencing in this day and age, and I think you brought a lot to that role with that kind of that notion of what we've all been kind of living
like-
through for the last couple of
Yeah,
years.
there's a scene that we shot in almost a survivor support group type thing. We're all sitting around talking, and Haley's really the only one that's like, are we going to actually talk about what's going on, or are we just going to keep, like, putting rose-colored glasses over this and not really talk about it? And I feel like that is a very important theme in our world today, so it was nice to see it reflected back.
And so is mental health, man.
Yeah.
I mean, when writing this, you can just tell my mental health when writing it, because there's a lot of self-expression into that, into the film.
When I first got cast into the role of Ombis, Mark was like a 16, 17-year-old kid, and it wasn't even on my radar. I auditioned for someone else. So when I got the role of Mark, I told Adam, I said, listen, there's got to be something in the movie that shows to the audience that Mark is actually more like maybe 24 years old.
Sure.
And that scene you just referenced from the first one is that scene.
Yeah, I'm watching the film, and I was wondering about that. Like, he's still wearing the, and then you address it in a really funny way, and I'm glad to see that jacket is part of the thread.
Well, the character, continuing the theme of character. I mean, if you look at Paige's outfit throughout the entire film, I mean, there's so many callbacks to the original in this film that it's just, I mean, if you don't look, you won't see it. You know what I'm saying? They're that in your face. And Paige wears a shirt that has the Looney Blues on it. And Looney Blues is a band that was featured in the first film.
The junk music want to come to the
Yes,
for the date.
Yes,
Worst date ever.
Worst date ever.
Worst
yes.
date ever. Yeah.
Yes. So you know well what I'm talking about.
We
Yeah.
might beat the worst date ever in this,
Okay.
in this upcoming
There's another date.
in a way.
All
yes.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I designed that shirt, and it has the year 1986, which has my birth date on it.
Yeah.
So I just when I sent it to Paige when she was living in California, and I said, "Can you just see what this looks like on you?" And we would go back and forth, and it ended up being the outfit we chose. You might still have it because I don't know if
I still have a copy.
Jason,
Yes.
when you worked on the first one and the second one, what was it like? Is it the same or different working with Adam again? How is it different from before?
Well, just simply working with Adam, it was the same. Adam's really good to work with as a director. But the two experiences in general were vastly different. I can get into that if you want.
Yeah.
So the first one, it was 12, 13 years ago, and I had just started getting into the film community here in Buffalo, and I had done like a couple kind of extra roles and a couple little projects. But Ombis was, I think the second thing I actually auditioned for. And like I said, I wasn't even going for Mark. But I looked at this character, Blake, and I said, well, he seems like he'd be fun to play. So I hopped in my truck, and I went over to Adams during I missed that truck, by the way. Anyways,
it fit right in with the wife beater. I'll say that.
My truck's actually in the first film.
Yeah, it is in the first film.
The
Yeah.
green truck.
Yeah.
So I go over to Adams, and I'm auditioning. And I think it was Adam that said to me, would you mind auditioning for one other character? And that was the Mark character. And I'm like, okay. It was a completely cold read. I didn't even know what cold read meant at the time, but I had not looked at it at all. I'm just reading it. I looked it over for about a minute and then auditioned. And then he said, do you mind if we get some more producers to come down while you do it again? Which he did. And very complimentary. And I ended up getting the role. And what I'm getting at is it was all very exciting to me. It was awesome at that time, just getting into the film community to actually, right off the bat, get the lead in a feature. I mean, I was so happy. It felt great. And then to go on set, I can honestly say to this day, the first Ombis set is my favorite set I've ever been on. And I've been on a lot of sets since then. It really was magic. Everyone got along, a lot of laughs, a lot of just people having fun and making a movie. Matter of fact, making a movie was our
slogan,
motto,
our
slogan during that whole thing. But it was just, I was absorbing it all in, and then the after parties. There was a lot of after parties in which I was at all of them.
Yes, he was,
and had a really good time.
Excellent.
And we really created a film family.
Yeah.
13 years in the future, regardless if people have kept in touch or not kept in touch, 13 years ago, no one can take that away from us. We really formed a family on that set.
Awesome.
And it's memories that I'll always have. So for those reasons, that first Ombis movie is very special to me. And I'm really looking forward to Ombis2 coming out.
We got the right story. We got the right script. We got the right feelings. Like Paige mentioned before, there's a scene with her in a police car, or I've talked about it, and it's funny because you see her in the back seat where she was in the front seat in the first film.
Okay.
So now she's in the back seat in the second film. So you could see just in that scene the progression of character development that Haley Greenhart has to go through.
Well, my first experience on them, the Horrific Evil Monsters with Adam, again, one of my first experiences being on a larger film set, and I was just completely in awe of I think you had a huge crane the day I was there, crane camera, and I was just like, this is crazy. And aside note, but my mom is obsessed with film clackers. She's like, if it's a real movie, if they've got a clacker. So she was very impressed that you had one.
Yes.
But then when I came back to do Ombis, obviously a very different experience for me as an actor. I grew up primarily doing stage acting. So then to just be on a blank set with nothing around you, it's a little different. And it's an adjustment that sends you into a tizzy a couple times when you're acting. And then you just kind of get used to it, and you're like, I'm here to do my thing, and Adam's going to do his thing, and he's going to make me look good, and I'm going to trust that. So
we used tannerite
to make some explosions?
To make an explosion in the first film. And I don't think that ever made the cut because it did not look good.
Okay.
But we did several tests with tannerite.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's loud, but not a lot of fire, right?
Oh, yeah. There was not much fire. And the effects people on that one thought there would be...
Would you shoot it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was shot.
That's how tannerite works.
Out in the country in Boston.
Yeah, were you there for that? You were there for that one.
I was there for some of it. That was next. Why am I forgetting his name?
Sam. Yeah. Sam Woodring.
Yeah.
Who passed away, unfortunately. But he shot. Yeah, they would just him and Norm Quino. They just stock up these tannerites, shoot it, and then we realized that
which if you knew Sam, makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
okay.
It describes his character. But I will say, in all, we did not end up using the tannerite element, and we just ended up pouring gasoline all around the meteorite.
Okay.
And Bob Bozak was in the scene, and Bob was trying to literally set himself on fire. He wanted to set himself on fire.
All right.
If you ever ask him that story, yes.
Yeah.
When you watch the film, he is so close to the fire. I would actually have to yell cut several times. I'm like, Bob, you are literally touching the fire. No, Bob, you are on fire.
Well, so for those who have seen the original, Bob was patient 0.
Yes.
Or I guess infected 0.
Yes.
Does he have a cameo in part 2?
He does.
Wonderful. Everyone loves to see Bob on screen.
And it's very Return of the Living Dead 2-ish.
Okay.
If you're familiar with that film and those characters in that movie.
Excellent.
So I'm excited about that.
So many practical effects and some digital effects, but primarily practical effects in Ombis 1. How does that differ now? I mean, I feel like there's tons and tons of digital
It's more cohesive.
Okay.
You have a very cohesive palette that you're using. I always, and I think you both have heard this before, I love color. I mean, you look at the poster, there's color. You look at the characters, there's color. I mean, we debated back and forth, Jason and I, on his wardrobe, one of his wardrobes in this movie, which is, I call them like scrubs, alien scrubs.
Okay.
It's a karate outfit.
Okay.
He calls it a karate outfit.
Ready for fighting.
Yeah.
And I took a lot of I love color, I love design, and I took a lot of elements from like samurais.
Okay.
And I've kind of made them that look of the characters for the alien race to kind of like samurai-ish.
So in the first one, Nemesis has a pretty distinct look. Who designed Nemesis?
The first film was Phil Beath, Jill Jovic. They did the head cast. In the second film, we used CFX.
Okay.
And they designed the prosthetic mask and the hands. The first day that he tried it on, Sean, and please don't judge me, I feel like he might have had a little bit of a panic attack the first time. Because it was so, like, if you've never worn one of those masks, even the Obi mask, Will can tell you the same thing because they're made by the same company. They're very restricting.
Okay.
I mean, they're skin tight.
Yeah.
And that's done to make it look more authentic.
Sure.
And
but your head's in a rubber sack.
Yes.
Not even a sack, just rubber skin.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to say we did very well with Sean in this one, trying to keep him in and out of the costume as much as possible.
Okay.
But he could tell you differently. I'm not sure if we did a good enough job or not.
But so you just mentioned the great Will Nemi.
Yes.
As Obi.
Yes, he's back.
And that's a crossover from the Horrific Evil Monsters.
Yeah.
Has Obi been in other films too?
No, he has not.
Okay.
The Horrific Evil Monsters does have Obi in it. So this film actually takes place before the Horrific Evil Monsters.
Okay. Very cool.
And you will see a huge growth of character of the Obi character just in action. Like that was one of my things about Horrific Evil Monsters that I was never super happy with is I felt like we could have gone even further with the action, and because of budgetary restraints we couldn't. And Ombis2, we had The Sky Was the Limit. We had dojos, 3 days of practice fight sequences.
Awesome.
I mean, we had everything that a professional project. I mean, we couldn't be any more professional than what we were doing.
Well, even the first Ombis, for being so long ago on low budget and everything, for what it was a very professional set.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We shot the first film over 6 months.
Okay.
That's a long time. That was like, we would do 3-day weekends.
And this was like a 3-week timeline or a 4-week?
This film that we, Ombis2, we shot in, what, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
7 days?
Wow.
I mean, I was on set for 5. So.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Hyperspeed.
Yeah.
And when you were on set, I'm sure you had a lot of cool props and costumes and stuff like that. Do you have a favorite?
I feel like this is a baited question.
It is definitely.
Because imagine if I just said like my backpack.
Okay, that would be
Yeah,
boring.
no,
Yeah.
it's obviously my machine gun.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That I shoot out of a moving car.
Okay. Very
It was an
cool.
epic day on set. And then, as Adam mentioned, I became very attached to my machine gun
Okay.
and wanted it in every scene.
All
and
right.
Wanted more things to do with my machine gun. So we added the scene of me carrying someone out of a burning building, also carrying a machine gun.
Okay.
So she's one-handing it
Yeah.
and
One
holding
hand
a
carrying
machine
the
gun.
person.
I'm picking up
Machine
big
gun.
Sarah Connor vibes here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I really wanted to be the hero, and they let me. Really important to see like a young woman like as the lead in an action movie.
Awesome.
Just because it's like it's not something that's done a lot. I feel like, especially as like the hero, like the one that's gonna save the day. You know, like to watch Ombis2 and then get to be you is like that. Like I get to take on that mantle. It's just been like a really cool thing, like to take away. And I hope it inspires people to make more women lead in action movies and
Awesome.
develop them more than just like the girl that dies in the cornfield or whatever. Yeah.
And Jason, can you see Mark returning for an Ombis 3?
Absolutely.
All right.
I would be mad at Adam if it didn't happen, actually.
Okay.
And Adam and I have joked around about this and talked about it, and Adam's saying is, well, in 10 years we'll do an Ombis 3. I'll tell you what, buddy, if it takes 10 years, if I'm still
You're gonna
blessed
have
to
a
be
walk.
around, I don't like I want this to happen like within 3 years.
Oh, well.
I've officially laid it down on a podcast. I'm talking a 3-year time frame.
Wow. Would I ever do an Ombis 3? Absolutely. I would. But it's got to be the right story. I mean, this one took 10 years to try to actually, hone in on what we wanted to do. I would get more than halfway through that. He's talking about the Antarctic script. Love that script, by the way.
Yeah.
He's talking about that script, and it was very, it was close. It was close because we were talking about doing it possibly before A Grim Becoming in 2014. And, things just didn't work out.
Trilogies are where it's at.
Oh yeah.
Who would have 2 movies?
Nah, you need you need 3.
Originally when I was thinking about this film, one of the executive producers approached me and said, do you want to just shoot 3 at the same time? And I'm like, I don't know if I got a full story yet for 3.
Sure.
That's a little bit much.
That would be rushed.
Yeah, it would have been crazy. It would have taken a long time to even...
Just to come up with a third script.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do it justice.
Yeah. Jordan was supposed to be in the scene at the gym when you were doing your big monologue speech in the therapy scene, but he got cold feet and, didn't show up.
Greatest regrets.
I needed you there.
Greatest regrets.
Listen to my story.
I would, there's nothing I regret more than missing out on a cameo. One word from each of you to sum up the film. What do you think?
I have to go first.
Jason, go ahead. Are you going to say what I think you're going to say?
Slime.
Epic. I know I took
Ambitious.
All right. Amazing.
I like to say epic a lot, but I really feel like this film is truly an ambitious film to have produced, made. It has tested my skill set in every realm. And I do look forward to people really getting... Like, what our motto on the first film was, we're making a movie. And the motto on this film was, we're making a blockbuster.
All right.
So
Amazing.
that's the difference between the two.
By the way, and I just thought of this.
Oh?
What's going on with the Ombis documentary I was promised you're working on?
Oh, yes. There is
From
a
the first
Ombis
film.
documentary coming out.
All right.
I already thought it would be out, but Ombis2 has taken precedence. So it will be coming out. And there will be an Ombis2 documentary also released.
Awesome.
So that's something on a personal level I'm actually really looking forward to because
The
it's a lot of
BTS.
behind the scenes
Yeah.
from the first movie.
All right.
Yeah.
Because you got a ton of footage.
Stuff people have never seen.
Right.
Slime everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, and
Explosions,
stories.
probably.
Cameras that just sat in corners and ran the entire time.
Okay.
While we lived the moment. And I got to say, Tim Dugan's performance, I just got to spot him out as the general. He is something that is like his authentic wardrobes, everything, man. He is precisely the character.
You can watch the original on YouTube. You can be part of the 2 million people that will have watched it by the time Ombis 2 comes out. It's already at 1 million. 1 million people have seen this film. So if you're not one of them, I recommend you watch it.